We are in process of developing a whole series of techniques which will enable the controlling oligarchy to get people actually to love their servitude. People can be made to enjoy a state of affairs which, by any decent standard, they ought not to enjoy.
Good evening. This is Howard Nema, and you are listening to We Are Change with Howard Nema and Vinny Bdatruth. Vinny is on assignment today. He's not going to be with us, preparing stuff for next week. Anthony Hilder will be joining us next week, Saturday from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, here on Informed Radio. I'm a little out of breath, as usual, running to get things ready for the beginning of the show here. It never seems to be enough time. First of all, I'd like to give a lot of thanks out to Truth War, who did an amazing job yesterday, and as always, an amazing job with the Fritz Springmeier interview, which we were very fortunate and extremely humbled to have the honor of having Mr. Springmeier do a 2-hour full interview that's available here on livestream.com, and the rebroadcasts will be going on Informed Radio periodically. And Truth, I do have that full file for you, and I will get it to you so you know about that. And also there'll be a YouTube video of it that's being polished and cut up, that was done on high def. That should be posted probably by the end of the night. And a lot of things going on. Today we're going to have a special guest, Dr. Spencer, Dr. Edward Spencer. Give you a little background on him. I have his, it should be here somewhere. Of course, probably not. It probably closed. Yes, of course, I'm going to have to do that. Well, he is a scholar and has been exposing the New World Order for the better part of 2 decades, and is a good friend of Anthony Hilder. He'll be calling in at the bottom of this half hour here, and I have some news to go over and other events that are going to be very hot. You know, obviously we've been sort of neglecting the news the last couple of shows due to the guests that we were having and everything. So Mr. Springmeier sort of like put the news on hold for us, but there's a lot of important stuff going on. I look like I'm a little distracted. I'm just trying to find this email that I had here, and there it is. Just so you'll know who Dr. Edward L. Spencer will be joining us, as I said, at 6:30 p.m. He's a graduate of Stanford University in 1957 and Yale University in 1962 in medicine. He's an MD from Yale. He's also a residency of neurology at the University of California in 1967. He's been in private practice in Petaluma, California until he retired in 2010. He began study of the power structure controlling the world in 1996 and brought Eustace Mullins to the Bay Area in 2007 for a speaking tour. He's worked with the Hildegard Stranger, Los Angeles, on Morgellons disorder, and he's examined Morgellons patients in Petaluma, and has also examined targeted individuals in Petaluma, informed medical staff about this disorder, the Morgellons disorder. Apparently, he has been awake for a long, long time and is a physician. I have many, many doctors that I always implore to please listen to this show. A very good friend of mine, a pediatrician that I'm still trying to get through to him about what's really going on and why things are happening, and the fact that the medical, the big pharma is just out of control with the vaccines, and they are poisoning us. So it's refreshing to have a doctor that is aware of what's going on and explaining as to why. This should be a very, very important and incredible interview. Again, doctors, physicians, anybody that's out there, please call in. The number is 8 at 6:30. Once after we speak with Dr. Spencer, Today, the number will be 860-866-4344, and we'll be able to talk about various things in the control grid and go as long as it takes. I'm very honored again to have Dr. Edward Spencer joining us in just a few minutes. All right, I have a lot of news to go over, and again, a little discombobulated because I'm behind trying to get the Fritz Springmeier tape cut. But here is the news that we have been neglecting on the last couple of broadcasts, or the last broadcast. What we really have going on here, obviously, is the setup for World War III. Troops are already amassing over by the Iranian border. The oceans, or the Strait of Hormuz, is now being monitored closely. Ships are in the region, and it looks like war is again, unfortunately, coming to roost. Of course, it's the same fraud. If you remember, with the weapons of mass destruction, now it's the nuclear threat. And all of these threats are all contrived. It is Hegelian dialectic, where you create the problem, then you offer the solution, and get the people to rally around it. So we do have a serious problem. It is coming. Probably in the next few months, we will see some sort of military action against Iran. Iran has been suffering from many, many attacks by the CIA, Mossad, and the MI6. With these bombings and missile strikes that are underreported here in the United States. But that's why you're listening to We Are Change on Informed Radio. And this is where news the mainstream media ignores is the top story, and your voice is heard. Now let's hear your voice. 860-866-4344. New phone number. Still trying to memorize it there. Again, just like Alex Jones' show, there's no teleprompters here. We just sort of like put it as it is. Now, the biggest holders of the United States government debt has been released. I did a little bit of a coverage of this before. Remembering that the Federal Reserve and their intergovernmental holdings hold over $6.328 trillion of debt. Interestingly enough, they created that debt by lending the money to the people, because every dollar that they create is interest, and we are unfortunately being taxed. Looks as though we have a couple of callers coming in. Who's on the line with me? Who's this?
Howard, this is Roger Landry.
Roger, how are you?
I'm doing great. How about you, sir?
I'm doing wonderful, Mr. Landry. I know we had a little miscommunications. I don't know if there was a problem or something was going on this afternoon, but I did get your email. Everything okay?
Yep, and I've got Jim Compton and Kelly Mordechai coming in also.
Fantastic. All right, I also have a guest coming on at 6:30, Dr. Spencer, talking about a lot of things. So we can certainly all chime in on all of it. But are they available right now? Are they in? We'll talk right now.
Kelly's here. Kelly D. Mordechai. How you doing?
Hey, Kelly, how are you?
Good. Wonderful weather here in California today.
Hey, that's great. Are you in Southern California?
Northern country.
Northern country.
God's country.
Oh, okay. That's great. I think that's where Dr. Spencer's calling from. When he's calling in at 6:30. He is a medical doctor that will be discussing all the ways that first of all, not only the ways that the New World Order is attacking us medically and through the food and all the other things and the drugs, but and the vaccines, but why and what's their motivation and what's their goal and where is it going at. So it should be a really interesting thing. We can all stick around and chime in. We might as well make it like an open forum. And I understand your work is incredible with I spoke with you about this is a new subject though, sir, right? It's not concerning the law of the jury.
This is concerning the grand juries.
Oh, it's still concerning the grand jury. Okay. I thought it was going to be a different topic, but that's great. Let's dig into it because it is all related, as we all know.
Well, we have Jim's coming on, and he's going to talk about precinct captains. He's going to talk about taking the political system back over in the United States from the precincts on up.
That's excellent, and that's great. Again, that sort of dovetails, Roger, into what's going on I believe it's March 28th, where the Oath Keepers and We Are Change Connecticut and the John Birch Society are doing a seminar on the federalization of the police and what's going on. So that's very relevant, and really what's happening is exactly that. You see SWAT teams looking more like the Army, not like SWAT teams anymore. Now they're dressed in fatigues, yet they're in an inner city. Why would you be wearing fatigues, It's psychological.
Oh, absolutely.
It's psychological.
But when we're discussing precincts, we're talking about the actual people who elect the people who run the country. We're talking about the lowest level of politics, the base level, the grassroots level. And we're talking about where you go to do your actual voting, those type of precincts, more or less not the police precincts, but the actual political precincts that each and every state is divided up into.
Right. Incredible.
But right now we have Kelly with us, and Kelly, can you just get the ball rolling as far as the grand jury goes, because we got a little bit of this in the last time we talked, but this is a topic that's just way too important to settle on 30 or 40 minutes, and this is why I brought him back on again today, Howard.
That's awesome. And Kelly Mordechai, again, has written a book called The Hidden Fourth Branch, and it exposes, again, the powers of the grand jury and how they're being really sort of, underscored by, really shuffled away. The power of the grand jury is great, and the people really need to use this power, and we need to use the grand jury. And Kelly, can you expand on this a little bit for the listening audience, please?
Oh, yeah, actually, it's very it's kind of hidden, basically, and hidden in plain sight. And is there an echo here? I'm having an echo.
Yeah, there's a major echo. I'm trying to figure out why.
Let me call you right back.
You can come back. That's right.
Yeah, all right, call right back.
Yep.
He's going to call back in, Howard.
Okay. Hey, Truth, is that a little better? I don't want to type.
He's going to call back in. He's not back in yet. But again, Jim, the other gentleman that's coming on,
yeah.
This is, again, the two-pronged attack. I always talk about a pincer movement. If you're going to get him from one direction, it might not work. But if you hit him from both sides of the face at the same time, you'll get their attention. And what most people don't understand is that all of the elections in this country are carried out from the grassroots, and it starts at the basic precinct captain in everybody who lives in a city, a town, anywhere is part of a political precinct, and all of the states are divided up into precincts. There's 3,141 precincts in the United States, and each one has an elected captain. And it's from that very grassroots level that all politics evolves from. If we, the people, can get back to the point where we control, not the parties, but we, the people, control those grassroots precincts, then we have taken our political system back over again.
So that's the goal. That's what we have to do. We have to, town by town, city by city, we have to just fight this. Right.
That's it. And it only takes 5 signatures in most places to become a precinct captain. 5 signatures from people living in your precinct, and you can run for a precinct captain or a precinct executive. And at that point, you believe it or not, you have more effect over politics than you could ever imagine. Kelly, are you back with us?
That's tremendous information.
I am back.
All right.
Yeah, I hope we don't have any echo.
I think it sounds better now.
Go ahead, Kelly.
Yeah, I don't think we have any issues now.
Last week's radio talk show, called in, and my cell tower where I lived was shut down. Small town, so it's kind of interesting. We had a little echo, whatever. But anyway, yeah, the grand jury is phenomenally powerful. It's been hidden from the American people for, I believe, the sole purpose to control us. And one of the purposes of the fourth branch of government is to look into the government. It's really, the grand jury is composed of your friends and neighbors on a grand jury, and you can submit a complaint. And in California, where I live, we have two types. We have the civil grand jury and the criminal grand jury. And the civil grand jury is in every county. It's required in the state constitution. And they go investigate the prisons, and they select a few other offices of the county. When they get complaints, they go ahead and they investigate these complaints. Then they write an annual report and release it. And last year's report, the DA was investigated, the public defender, a couple police departments were investigated. So we have the best civil grand jury system in California, the nation. It's really hampered from issuing indictments, but that's where the criminal grand juries come in, whereas the DA works with the criminal grand jury, and if there's enough evidence, somebody gets an indictment. And the other thing with a grand jury is it has subpoena powers, where they begin an investigation, and grand jury says, well, let's subpoena this or that, or this person, or this document. So if you don't comply with a subpoena, basically that's contempt of court, contempt of grand juries, theoretically, but then you can have an arrest warrant, so you're going to have to show up.
Subpoena
And
power
when you're
is
there,
huge.
when you're there as a witness, you're going to have to answer questions. People would think, well, the Fifth Amendment applies. Well, as a witness, it does not. The court, the grand jury will work with the judge. The judge will give the witness a thing called immunity. Immunity meaning what you say cannot be used against you, but you were a witness in this situation, so now speak up. Susan McDougall, Clinton Whitewater situation, she went to jail for 18 months. Federal grand jury kept asking her questions, and if she just wasn't going to answer the questions, grand jury says, all right, you're going to jail. Barry Bonds Trainer, he also went, it was a steroid thing, whatever. He wouldn't answer questions, and he went to jail. And you can get out if you just answer the questions, or you have to wait till the grand jury term is done. So basically, it has the ability to pierce through the silence of witnesses that witness corruption. And I can tell you all sorts of stories from district attorneys to sheriffs to county judges to county supervisors, state legislators have been held account, indicted by grand juries.
Kelly, who serves on a grand jury? For those listening that don't really understand what makes up a grand jury, what's the makeup and who serves on the grand jury and how?
Well, in California, with the civil grand jury, you can actually volunteer to be on it. You can volunteer to investigate your county government. And that's reports, mostly investigating, finding, report writing. For a criminal grand jury, you get a jury summons in the mail, just like you would for trial by jury. And then you appear and you get a little bit of training, you get sworn in, you get busy. So it's randomly selected from the community.
Who decides who to send those invitations to, those summonses to?
Well, typically your grand jury commissioner is like a glorified secretary who works under a judge. The judge is involved in the convening process and the selection, but they have like a random pool, pull names out of the hat, if you will. And then the judge sometimes will screen and will make sure that there's someone that doesn't have an axe to grind. And then basically, okay, you 19 people, you're on the grand jury, go.
So it's a grassroots organization. It's not an organization picked from the power, picked from the elite, picked from the privileged. It is a grassroots organization.
It was the original grassroots organization. In colonial days, they basically ran the county, public works, bridges, roads, things like that. If there was a crime that happened, you'd go to a grand jury. The grand jury would work with the judge, indictment, and then go to trial by jury. This is before 1776 and after 1776. The first grand jury was in America was convened in 1635, not 1718. 1635 in Massachusetts Bay Colony. By 1683, all 13 colonies had a grand jury, and there was no DA. That's one problem we have these days. DAs are gatekeepers when a complaint goes to a grand jury. But it was the original grassroots movement.
Excellent. Okay. I'm sure there are a lot of your listeners, Howard, who didn't have a clue who could serve on a grand jury and how the grand jury was even picked. Is Jim Condit in yet?
Yes, I'm here.
Jim, okay. Howard, have you met Jim before?
No, actually, we were talking about, of course, you and I had spoken about Jim, but no, I haven't met you, Jim. How are you, sir?
Hello.
Hello.
Yeah, I've been in for. I've been listening. I didn't know that I was unmuted, so I didn't say anything.
Oh no, that's all right. It's open. The phones are open here. You're on the air. So you just anyone that's there, you can chime in. There's no it's not as long as everyone just gives people time to respond and such. It's good. The more the merrier.
Okay.
Jim is here to discuss the precinct.
Hello, Roger. Roger?
That's been buried in the myth.
Say that again, Roger. You broke up.
I said Jim is here to discuss the precinct up politics today, because that's another tool that's basically been buried to most Americans that they're not aware of. And that is, we have the power to control politics in this country from the very basic level on up. And he has done several movies, outstanding movies, and they're on wagthedog.2010.com. You can see them. And Jim, why don't you give us a brief overview of the precinct level of politics?
Yeah. Well, I was involved in politics from 1972 when I was an alternate to the Nixon convention in Miami at 19 years old. But it wasn't until 1985 that one of my friends said, "Hey, you really should be working in the precincts." And I said, "Why?" And he said, "Well, because that's where the party leaders come from. That's where the candidates come from." And I had never even thought for 13 years, where do these party leaders come from that endorse all the congressional and the city council and so forth candidates? So I looked into it and I realized this was the real hidden, and a lot of us realized this was the real hidden key to controlling the country. Now, let's look at it this way. We see the candidates at election time. Let's say it's November. We see the Democrat and Republican candidates. Where did they come from? Well, of course, occasionally you'll get a rich person that'll just put on $1 zillion for the TV ads and overrun the party choice. But 95, in actual fact, 95% of the time, the candidate we see for the Democratic Party and the Republican Party is a endorsed candidate, endorsed by the party leaders. Let's say it's a congressional candidate. It'll be someone endorsed at the county level, generally speaking, okay? So where did so if 95% of the time the endorsed candidate wins the primary and goes on to the general election, then we're stuck with the general election as to who's going to make the policy in Washington, D.C. or in your state capital or in your city. Well, then it's pretty important where these party leaders come from, and that's the big secret. The party leaders come from the precinct. And you might say, well, what's a precinct? Well, the precinct, it's not a police precinct, although it's the same concept. A precinct is 5 or 10 streets around your house, okay? Depending on whether you're in the country, it might be a little bit more geographical territory. But say it's 5 or 10 or 15 streets around your house, and that little boundary, which would look like a little island if you drew it, if all those people and you vote at the same polling place. That's the definition of a precinct. You all vote at the same polling place. There are usually about 500 registered voters in a precinct, usually about 200 vote. And so anyway, that's the precinct. And we have one country, we have 50 states, and those states are divided up into 3,141 counties. Now think of your county where you live, that is divided up into precincts, okay? Where I live in Cincinnati, Hamilton County, it's divided up into 1,161 precincts, little geographical areas for 5 or 10 streets. So now you know what a precinct is, and we're telling you that the candidates come from the party leaders come from the precinct captains or the committees, and they call them different things at different places. So how does this work then? How could you and every American, everybody who's attended a Tea Party rally, every sincere person who's attended an Occupy Wall Street thing because they're worried about the corruption at the top of finance in this country, every sincere American should be, their first priority should be to be involved in the precinct, in their own precinct, in their own neighborhood precinct. And you might say, well, why is that? Because you then can elect the party leaders. And here's how it works. I use Ohio as an example, although, as Roger said, it's similar in every state, but there's slightly different rules. But in Ohio, if I want to run for, let's say, Republican precinct chairman in my little neighborhood in White Oak, which is a suburb in Hamilton County, I would get 5 signatures from Republicans or independents before the primary, which is usually in May here. So that I turn those in, now I'm on the ballot for precinct. And if I was a Democrat, then you got to get signatures from 5 independents or Democrats. That's the rules in Ohio. But only 5 valid signatures. You turn those in, you're on the ballot. And you might be thinking, well, gee, I never saw a precinct person on the ballot. But it's at the end of your primary ballot. It's after it's the governor's race, the senator's race, county commissioner, city, whatever's issues. It's the last candidate in your ballot, and you probably never noticed it because 1/3 of the precincts are blank or vacant. This all-important office, 1/3 are vacant, and usually there's nobody opposing the person. So it's one of those things like coroner that there's not even opposition. So you don't notice it, but that's on your ballot if you're in a primary state at the primary. So you get your 5 signatures, you run. Now let's say you win. Now, this is the only election, if you wanted to campaign, you can shake the hand, or somebody in your family or your friends can shake the hand of every voter, because everybody's going to come in to the same voting place. Usually the margins are like 11-0. I mean, if you're running unopposed, you just go and vote for yourself and you win. If there's a contest, sometimes it'll be as high as 60 votes to 50 votes, but it's very low votes because it's just your little precinct. And so let's say you run and you win, or you're unopposed, you vote for yourself and you win. Then what happens? Well, a month after the primary, usually in June in Ohio, the Democrats on one night, because they're one party, and the Republicans on another night have a meeting. It's called the Central Committee Organizational Meeting, and it's all the precinct execs, precinct captains. And at that meeting, that all-important meeting that hardly any Americans know about, everybody that was elected at the precinct election comes together and votes for the party chairman and his executive committee. That's the big secret. Now, right now, when those meetings come together in every county, 3,141 counties, and they come together, the Republicans come together every 2 years, and the Democrats come together, and they elect that party leader. That's unknown to the public. That's where we got to be. We got to run for precinct. We show up at that meeting. We elect people that will be pro-Constitution, pro-type people, and get rid of the people there who, whether they know it or not, these heads of the Democratic and Republican parties, they are fronting for Goldman Sachs and the Fed and the international banks that are really running both the Republican and Democratic Party at the top. If they don't realize that, they just don't realize what they're doing. But we need to replace them, whatever they think they're doing, with constitutional-minded Americans to restore all of the founding principles of true freedom of this country. So, Roger, that's basic explanation, and let me just summarize it in a sentence. The candidates come from the party leaders. The party leaders come from the precinct people, and the precinct is your neighborhood. Every person in America either get involved to run for precinct or support someone in their neighborhood that's running for precinct. And in 2 to 4 years, we can change the party leaders, change the Congress, and start to take the country in every way.
Wow, Jim, that is unbelievable.
When Jim started to talk about these are the people who, whether they know it or not, are supporting the big banks or supporting.
Oh, yeah.
I saw you shaking your head, Howard. As if,
oh, yeah.
Yeah. And the thing of it is, this is where all of the power can be regained from. I mean, this is a two-pronged attack. Again, last week we did a two-pronged attack when we talked about the grand juries and we talked about the criminal aspects. This week it's a two-pronged attack where we're talking about the grand juries and we're talking about the precincts. So no matter what we talk about, we're taking them from multiple directions. And what Jim is saying is we have a grassroots capability right here in front of us that's within 10 city blocks around us where we can start to take the country back. Us, you and me, the average citizen, not the elite, not the people who have lots of money. It's the grassroots, from the ground up, let's take the damn country back.
Right. I want to add to this, if I may. This is Kelly here. Yeah, Jim, at our Tea Party here, local here in Tennessee County, there's a gentleman that came and explained to the Tea Party, precinct captains, this is what you do, this is how you do it, and he was encouraging you to do pretty much everything you're saying. And he's going around to other Tea Parties and telling people, this is hidden from you, you got to do this, and I'm excited. I'm going to try this.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's great information. I mean, and again, something that nobody talks about, nobody knows about. So it's another way, it's like a covert way to get back our republic.
They don't want us to know this. They don't
Right.
want us to know about the grand jury. They don't want us to know about the precincts. They don't want us to know about the fact that they are criminally taking money out of our paychecks every week. These are the things that they don't want us to know about, because once we start to learn about them, then their house of cards collapses, Howard.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely, Roger. Listen, I just got a phone call from Dr. Spencer. Are you did you call in the number, Dr. Spencer? Are you out there on air? Did you call in?
I didn't, ma'am. I'm calling in by a cell phone because the cell phone is with Skype.
Okay.
Another, you have one number, or do you have you call in Skype?
The Skype number is 860-866-4344.
Right. That's what I've called. Actually, I just got Skype going.
Well, you're on there now. You're on air, so we're good.
So, okay, well, I'll use the cell phone until I establish credit with Skype. I didn't know that was going to happen.
Yes, actually search for the on Skype, go to search. Truth War is giving me some information. Search for the New Informed Radio on Skype, and you can Skype in there, Dr. Spencer. We're getting some amazing information here from Jim Condit, just discussing the power of the precincts and precinct captains, and of course Kelly Mordechai, of course, talking about the powers of the grand jury with his great book and work, The Hidden Fourth Branch, which you can go to hiddenfourthbranch.com, get a lot of details there, and read his book. Amazing. Dr. Spencer, are you still there?
I'm still here, and I'm dealing now with a technical problem.
Okay, well, we can all hear you, so it's not the end of the world. You are on air, so I did want to try to go, just finish up a few things with Kelly and Jim Condit. If we could just be patient for a couple of minutes and hear what they have to say, and then we can all chime in on your stuff, Dr. Spencer. Go ahead, guys.
Well, basically, if you want to round up your information there, Kelly.
Well, yeah, we get
Roger,
news.
Roger, this is Jim. I just want to let y'all know that except for Roger, I'm really having trouble hearing everybody else. So if I don't respond, Roger, then maybe tell me I'm supposed to respond. So thank you.
Okay.
I'm having similar technical difficulties, like I'm talking in a tunnel here. But yeah, we got some good news because Jim was working with True to Vote, and we were finding discrepancies in states, and et cetera, et cetera. And so what we did was I developed a complaint that a person can submit to the grand jury, and there's been 2 in Florida submitted, 1 in Vegas, and 1 in Los Angeles already.
That's great.
That's excellent. So have you heard anything back from those?
Well, not yet, but the approach is real simple. You download the complaint, you get it to your grand jury, to the DA, and then what happens is the grand jury is going to hopefully issue a subpoena. When you walk into the voting precinct, you're handed a paper ballot. What's this? Well, it's a ballot. It's going to go into a lockbox, and the grand jury is going to receive it and compare that to the electronic voting machines. And if there's an error, somebody's going to go to jail.
Amazing. I love it. Let's get these banksters and get them where they breathe.
And leave it to Americans to find problems and find solutions. I mean, there's so many grassroots patriots in this country nowadays that are absolutely fed up with the way things are going, and they're putting their brain power to work to try and figure out how to solve these issues. And that's how we come up with the Jim Condits. That's how we come up with the Kelly Mordechais. That's how we come up with. And believe me, these are not the last of our solutions. And each and every one of these tools combined gives us the power, gives the power back to we the people, and takes it out of the hands of these criminals.
Exactly.
Roger, I dropped off, but I'm back on now.
Okay.
This is Jim from Cincinnati.
All right, Jim, is there any way you can give us a wrap-up on your stuff? Because I know you can't stick around much longer.
Well, I can stay till 7 if you wish, but I got 25.
I want you to talk about Wag the Dog also. I want to point people in that direction because there's a lot of your good information there.
Yeah, people are saying, gee, what? I'm hearing this for the first time. What the heck are they talking about? You can go to wagthedog2010.com. That's wagthedog2010.com. And at the very top of it, you'll see a video that's called The Strangest Political Secret. And it's a 13-minute video about this whole process. And, Roger, here's the important thing that we can maybe fix in the months ahead with the network you're putting together. I don't care if it's the NRA or Right to Life, whatever group you can think of that has been organizing people for years, they will not tell them about this precinct thing. At least they won't do it as a main priority. So it's like write your congressman, beg Nancy Pelosi to do something for us. They treat the American citizens at the grassroots level, the patriots, like we are children. And like we could never think of running the country. We just have to beg Nancy Pelosi and John Boehner to do something for us. And this is not the way it is. I think they think they got a toehold in the Republican Party, but if they don't see how we're losing ground every week, then something's drastically wrong with them. So we need to say to people, do not beg Nancy Pelosi. You become the precinct executive. You elect a Ron Paul Constitution-type person as head of your party in your county, and then you endorse the congressman to be constitutional congressman. We go to and we fix the election system too. That's another thing about this, Roger. The precinct people elect the party chairman in each county, and it's at the county level that we can fix the vote. That's where they can say we're going to have paper ballots counted by hand and by the neighbors in each precinct and cut out this ridiculous computer voting. So using the precinct to elect. That's at the county level. Yeah.
Right.
I hope you can hear me.
You're coming through fine, Jim.
Feedback. I hope you can hear me because I'm hearing myself echo all over the joint. But yeah, so if we use the precinct, Roger, to elect the county chairman and the county executive committee in each party, they can throw out the computers and get back the paper ballots counted by the neighbors. Now we got honest elections. Now when we endorse a good congressional candidate and use the internet and walking door to door in our precinct, that's another value. If you have precinct people in each precinct, then right before the election, you can run around to your neighbors and give them a piece of literature and talk to them. So all these things can come together and we can change the country in 2 to 4 years. But precinct has to be the priority, not sign waving, not rallies, not letter writing. I'm all for those things. I'm all for walking in and lobbying your representative. But by using the precinct, we should become the government, and we normal people should become the government again, as you were saying earlier, Roger.
Well, I'll tell you one of the biggest things that ties what you and Kelly are doing together is that at the precinct level, the decision is made how the vote is counted. Whether that vote is counted by computer or at the county level, whether it's counted by computer, whether it's counted by hand ballot, the thing of it is, if we get the grassroots people in there, if we take control of those counties, then we can throw these machines out that we all know are fixed, that we all know are bought and paid for by 4 large companies which control the entire vote in this country. And
right.
And Kelly, I know you're working real hard on getting this out, so I would appreciate if you would do me a favor, Kelly, and go over one more time what people need to do to put the process you put into place with the grand jury. Put that.
Hey, Roger.
Yes.
Roger, let me say something before Kelly does, because I haven't addressed him yet. Kelly has written this tremendous book, and he's teaching all of us. I mean, we've all heard of grand jury, but Kelly's teaching us how to use it. And let me tell you something, ladies and gentlemen. When you run for precinct and try to take over a county, as we did in 1990, we were cheated, Kelly and Roger, at the local court and at the Supreme Court in the most absurd ways possible. But we won in 1990. Should have been running the Republican Party in Hamilton County. We would have then put out mail all over the country to people saying, now you take over your county, and we might, but they're ready for this, the ruling elite, and they cheated us at the county judge, Judge Nato, and the Supreme Court. They cheated us. The Supreme Court even said that our group was right in law and in fact, and they used the technicality to give it back to the good old boy network. So my point is, we need the grand jury. We need other things, because when you go in to try to take over a county, they just don't say, oh, welcome, glad you learned your civics lesson well, which we were never taught to, but we should have been. They don't say welcome. They start to act like criminals and demon warriors to stop the citizens from taking power in their own county. And this is where the grand jury and other legal lay techniques are essential. So I just want to emphasize before I leave the call that what Kelly's saying is absolutely essential, so that once the battle begins, we have some tools to fight the criminality that will be forthcoming from many of these, if not all of these, Democrat and Republican parties, certainly at the state and national level, but even at the local level.
And this is exactly what I started to say when you chimed in. That was perfect. Because basically what you said is what I was going to say to Kelly. Okay? One supports the other. One hand washes the hand of the other. I honestly believe, Jim, that what you're trying to do is a huge necessity, because no matter what we do on any other venue, if we don't take the politics back, it's just going to remain just as corrupt as it is. But at the same time, in support of you, we need those grand juries, and Kelly has a system he set up whereby we can check those votes. Even now, before we have a chance to take back over those counties and decide how the vote is counted, Kelly has come up with a way where we can make sure that that vote is not being miscounted. And Kelly, I need you to make it clear to the listeners here exactly what they need to do to put it into practice, because there's a lot of voting ahead of us between now and the primary and the nomination.
Yeah, what we need to do is get on this right away, whatever county you live in, with your primaries coming up. I made it real simple. Hidden Fourth Branch, the number 4TH, hiddenfourthbranch.com. You'll be blown away by what you're learning. I'm still blown away at how the states have affirmed this all over. Anyway, so when you know this power, then you go ahead and go to electronic voting machine accountability. It's 9.0, kind of like 5.0, Brooklyn Daniel. 9.0, look in that page, and there's two downloads. One is a one-page Microsoft Word document. Basically, you put the DA's address in there and your name, and you print that out, sign it, and then there's 17 pages of evidence, and you go ahead and submit that to the district attorney. Now, the DA might play some games, but what you can do is if the DA won't do this, you go to the press. It's a press release. We were concerned with electronic voter fraud. The DA... we submitted to the grand jury, and the DA won't do this.
That's beautiful.
And, so there's an audio recording below the document that you can listen to that has more details to help people move forward a little easier. But it's that simple. We made it that simple purposely. And I want to tell a short story. I'm getting calls from all over the country. Listen to the grand jury do here and there. And in Tucson, Arizona, I got a call. There's a public works project that was electronically frauded to get passed. Never before was a similar bond passed by the people. Well, the Libertarian Party sued, and it took them 4 years to finally get the actual forensic evidence and ordered by the judge, subpoena for the. And again, this is the normal legal process. 4 years, and they're going to examine the forensic documents because documents were printed up and scanned again. Yeah, it passed. Well, they collected $2 billion, and they're building roads on look, and the government fought them left and right and left and right. It's taken 4 years. That's the problem with electronic voting machines and our standard legal system. It takes too long. The grand jury can get to this and get to it now.
Well said. Perfect. I mean, that's what we have to do. We have to address the grand juries. We have to go to our precincts and from the ground up and get the right people in place. You said it right on there. Print out these documents. Go to the hiddenfourthbranch.com and download these documents so you can start making the change. We need to be the change we wish to see in the world. Kelly, that's fantastic. Your work is exceptional. We're going to spread this news everywhere. Speaking about being viral, we can't forget that the We the People Network is over 1 million strong and growing. It's just an amazing thing you're doing, Roger, for liberty and freedom and knowledge, which is power. Thank you so much for all your efforts.
Roger?
Yes.
This is Jim in Cincinnati. Could I have a minute to just explain to people how bad the election system is, how we've been tricked all over the country and how it happened? Because maybe some people are not aware of that are tuning in for the first time here.
I think Howard and I would both agree that this is exactly what the venue is for.
This is what it's for.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So real quickly, folks, here's what's happened. In the 70s, when computers started to come in, then they were sold as like, these are magical things. We'll take the work off the local board of elections. It's easier than hand counting. And what happened?
Hello? Hello? You broke up. Anyone there? Call out. Anybody there?
Form the New World
Jim,
Order and so forth.
Jim, you broke up. You got to... Jim, go back a little bit. You broke up there. We missed some of that.
Okay. The point is that since the computers came in the 70s, that's when they started to push them. There was no computers to speak of in 1972 when Nixon swamped Montgomery. But then they started to put the computers in. And by 1988, 3,101 or so of the 3,141 counties had computers. By 1988, this was consolidated. And if people want to see an HBO movie on this subject, it's called Hacking Democracy. And there's also a book that was put out by the Colliers called Vote Scam, The Stealing of America. Both the Colliers have passed away, but I worked with them for about 13 years.
Wow. So
people can look up this stuff. We got a website, Roger, called votefraud.org. VOTEFRAUD.org. That's votefraud.org, where you can see a ton of information, and in 2 hours you can become kind of an expert. So what happened was, though, by 1988, by the time Bush Sr. ran against Dukakis, 3,000 or so of our 3,141 counties, or 99%, had computers in them. And what happened is the Republican National Committee and the Democratic National Committee told all their county people and their state secretaries of states, oh, these companies will do a great job for you, just hire them. And that's what happened. These companies didn't break in and take over. They were hired by the local boards of election, which are run by the Democrat and Republican Party. And so they made big contracts that are paying them millions of dollars to work our elections, okay? So the sin of the local board of elections in your county and my county is not that they're fixing the elections as a rule. They have just stepped aside and handed over the running of our elections to these four companies, which are Diebold, Hart, Sequoia, and ES&S, Election System and Software, out of Omaha, Nebraska. And they change their names all the time. And that's basically what's happening. Now, the 5 TV networks are in this up to their ears because they protect this system. Most people listening, even in the Patriot movement, have probably never heard that ABC, CBS, NBC, CNN, Fox, and AP Wire own a company which is now called a National Election Poll, NEP. It used to be called Voter News Service until 2003. And that is the group that takes all the so-called exit polls and tabulates the votes for all the television and radio stations. They tabulate. I'm sorry,
Jim. I got to tell you, this all goes back to what you said. It all goes back to the counties taking over the ability to determine how the vote is counted. And just let me step in one more time here.
Go ahead.
And
Go ahead.
I need to let everybody know that Kelly Mordechai, who was talking to us about the grand jury, is part of an organization that is a very good partner with We the People Network, and that is toolsforjustice.com. And that's a website you need to go to, toolsforjustice.com, and take a look, because there's a lot of good information there. But basically what I'm hearing from you, Jim, is that, again, it all boils down to us going down to the precinct level and then getting our people, our liberty-minded people, elected to those positions, and then taking over our counties so that we determine how the vote is counted, and we can take these machines and kick them out the front door.
Exactly, and you fire these companies, and you say no computers, no machines, and for $48 billion, Roger, listen to this, for $48 billion, which is what we spent in the first 12 months of 2003, 2004, we could pay 12 people in every precinct in America to hand count the vote. No one would have more than 50 votes to count. We could pay them each $100 for 4 hours work on election night for the next 60 years and cover the primary election and the general election. So this idea that we don't have the money to count the votes right is ridiculous. The ruling elite wants to count them in secret like they're doing now. And here's how bad it is. Here's how bad it is. When we vote in November, this coming November, and in all these primaries on Super Tuesday, except in half of New Hampshire and a very few small counties in Montana, Idaho, and Texas, we are not allowed to see the ballots on Election Day. So we vote. It's generally like in Ohio, we slip our vote into a ATM machine that looks like an ATM machine in a safe, and we never, no citizen, no candidate, no press person ever sees those votes again. The 4 companies announce the results on election night, and the news media, BBC, CBS, NBC, CNN, Fox, and AP, through News and National Election Poll, announced the results as if the angels down to heaven. But for instance, coming up on Super Tuesday, where there's primaries, all primaries except Idaho, all of those primaries where they're going to tell us Mitt Romney won in a landslide probably, we're taking that as a total act of faith. This is anti-American. It's against the law. It's illegal in most states explicitly. It's against 2 Supreme Court decisions that said our right to vote consists of 2 parts. One, that the first part is that we're allowed to cast a ballot. Well, we're still allowed to do that. But the second part is that we know that it was counted accurately, and this computer vote crime syndicate, as I call them, vote fraud crime syndicate, through the networks and the 4 big companies and the RNC and the DNC have taken from us our second part of our right to vote, because we have no idea whether our votes are being counted accurately in 99% of the elections.
They're not. This is on record that they already had the election results with Clinton. They have the end results of the Electoral College before the election. It's all fraud. It's all planned. Unfortunately, but true.
I'm going to throw out it'll be on my website, I'll put it up there. There's a YouTube video where CNN was present during the Nevada caucus. And of course, that's incredible accountability. You got cameras rolling, everything. The final tally in the Nevada caucus, Ron Paul got 57% of the vote. They couldn't cheat. They couldn't walk into a closet and come out with a new bag. They couldn't do anything. Complete accountability because CNN was there. 57%. I'll post that YouTube on the website, and you can see it there. The Hidden Fourth branch, it'll be on there. It's mind-blowing when there's accountability.
Howard, I mean, again, this is some great information. I know you have another guest that wants to chime in.
Oh, yes.
Just let me say one more thing, okay? Kelly is a member of toolsforjustice.com. A lot of this information is available on the site. And Kelly, tell them your site one more time, and then Jim, give them your site one more time, and then we've got to let this other guest chime in.
Okay. All right. Hidden Fourth Branch, the number 4th, hiddenfourthbranch.com.
And
okay, and the website I want people to go to is wagthedog2010.com. Look at the top video, The Strangest Political Secret, and that'll give you the vote fraud website. And Roger and Howard, I hope I got everybody's name right. you're covering more in this hour. More in this hour than people will get in 365 days on Clear Channel.
I realize that, and that's what we do here. This is Truth Talk News, and we've got a lot of truth to go. And you're of course all welcome to stick around and stay with us if you can. And I just want to also mention that all of the things that you're plugging, all of your websites, what I do is I put together the rebroadcasts, and I will have these posted on the on the website's information on the actual video restreams that restream all over in the YouTube. So the information for all the guests, always their it's always going to be there forever. So if the rebroadcast will have all of this, you don't have to worry about folks. If you missed the what was saying, there'll be a rebroadcast for all these things, and they'll be written below the bottom margin of the screen, and everyone will have access to all of the websites and each show. Because now the list is growing, I will be personally plugging all of these websites, like I did now again for Fritz Springmeier's new website, which is pentracks.com. I mean, this is how we do this. We have to get the information out. And we're all part of the same network. And God bless you all for all your work and all your efforts. And I am going to introduce Dr. Edward Spencer, who's been patiently waiting. And are you guys still out there, Dr. Spencer?
Yes, I am, but I'm going to need some technical assistance.
Okay, what do you need there, sir?
I can't deal with Skype, so when you get a chance, let's talk about that.
Okay, but I do hear you, and you are on the air. Again, you have a very, very impressive resume for years and years of Yale and all of these other schools. You're a medical doctor. You had said to me that you wanted to address the issues of how we can understand why the New World Order is poisoning us and destroying us, and as to their motivation to do so. So can you expand on that a little, Doctor?
Well, yes. What I said, I just told someone that what I trying to think in terms of the whole enchilada. I'm getting an echo here. Could I ask you to tell me what the contact is for Skype? Exactly when I say add a contact for Skype, what do I type in?
Yeah, type in the search field on Skype, type in the New Informed Radio, all one word. You should find us. The New Informed. Yeah, the New Informed, NFORMD Radio.
The New Informed
Radio, yeah.
NEW, okay. I'm sorry, it's just, the whole thing, Skype thing does not work. I tried to I finally got it. So let me see, you're actually there. Let me see if I can call you on Skype.
Yeah, we've had some demons lately with the Skyping.
Okay. So I'm asking you to add me as a contact, and so then I'll try and call with this.
That's good, and Truth will patch you right through, and we'll get a great connection.
Hello?
There you go, Mr. Spencer.
Okay, maybe
I'm
on get rid of the
You're just going to... Truth, can you do something about the echo? Okay, we're good. Go ahead.
Okay, you can hear me, right?
Very good, Doctor. Loud and clear as a bell. Loud and clear as a bell.
Yeah, we got you now.
We got you at last, so if I got the contact.
All right, sorry for the delays, everybody, but here's Dr. Edward Spencer.
What I think of in terms of, and I'm sorry for the mess up at the delay, is the whole enchilada. Is that I think the world is sufficiently a mess that is so complicated and extends through so much time that you actually have to grab the whole thing, and it can be very difficult to just work with a part at a time. Basically, we've been in trouble for hundreds and thousands of years. And so this is what I have done since 1996, I have just been working on trying to understand the whole thing, and this involved reading of L. Fletcher Prouty had a lot to say, and quite a number of authors. When I'm talking, I'm going to recommend a website to people, and that is the anticorruptionsociety.com. You can find a lot of information on that, anticorruptionsociety.com. Now, I'm starting with who are our enemies? Who are the enemies of the American people and indeed all people? And I think one has to come out with the fourth estate, television, newspapers, the entertainment industry, and universities, and at last our own minds, which are filled with confusion. These mass media, these mass news, in quotes, entities do not provide information in depth, and they frequently just blot out topics of interest that are critical topics of information.
That would be an understatement, Doctor.
Yeah, absolutely an understatement. And so actually, I think what someone should think about that all of the time is that we are being deluged by the enemy, by these entities. And the universities, I think, are interesting because they speak so highly of themselves. But can you go to Harvard or MIT and get an extensive course of study on 9/11 attacks? Can you go to an economic institution and learn about the Federal Reserve? Can you go to a big university and learn everything about the Kennedy assassination? I know that people going to studying with professors who have a Nobel Prize think that the Federal Reserve is a government institution.
There's no doubt.
There's a lot of people on this call who don't.
That's true, Roger.
Well, I don't know. So what should I do with this?
No, just keep going, Doctor. It's great information. In fact, it's interesting when you mentioned about the control about the media. Do you know? Are you aware of a conglomerate called Reed Elsevier?
No.
Well, they own Lancet and Cell. They also own all of the hardcore books. They own all of the medical books that are in all the medical schools. And it's a total New World Order front from the Dutch English side of the Illuminati. And these guys have 15,000 magazines that they own, publications including Variety, which is a Hollywood trade paper, all business trade papers. It's an incredible research for everybody out there. Please research Reed Elsevier. That's ReedElsevier. They are in London, and it is amazing. They also own LexisNexis, which is a data mining company that the FBI and the CIA use, among others. It's really unbelievable. So you are saying the totalitarian. That's a good way to put it. The total image, the total thing. You really do have to look at the whole picture, and it's a huge picture.
Yeah.
It's a huge picture.
One of the biggest and most, Howard.
Go ahead, Raj.
One of the most stark, examples of this is when you look at the cover of Time and you see how it is all the way across Europe and most of Asia, and then you look at the cover of Time in the United States, and the cover in Europe is of people being killed and war, and the cover in the United States is some mindless dribble that has absolutely nothing to do with it. Now, it's the same magazine being published on the same date, but it's a different message for us because we're not supposed to be aware of this, because We are the perpetrators. So we're going to get a totally different cover. We're going to get a totally different content than what they're getting in other parts of the world, because that's the way it's designed.
Absolutely, absolutely. And let's go back to the medical schools. We were just talking about it. I know you went to Yale, and it's just the medical schools and all the funding for medical research came from the Rockefeller Foundation. The reason why you're taught to prescribe drugs as a doctor is because of this totally controlled paradigm, where you have natural cures, which work, are demonized and regulated, and these drugs are this part of this eugenics of sickening the population for profit, basically, and death. And it is a huge thing. I mean, a lot of people don't understand the eugenics, but as a physician, can we talk about the eugenics? What your understanding is of medical, the way that current physicians are being taught?
Well, yes. The medicine is very deteriorated. It, we are beholden. We're handmaidens of the pharmaceutical companies, and there's just misinformation there galore, and it's so massive that it's hard to fathom. And now, if you're inside medicine, you're a big doctor, you have a white coat, you're important, and that it's an ego and prestige type thing. But then, if you start traversing the edges of this, rapidly you fall off into a pit, and you see that what a conspiracy it really is. And I have to say that it took me a while to find that out. I would look at the PDR, the physician's desk reference, and it was so hard to read, and that things seemed to be lost in it. And I thought, they'll get organized. Of course, it just kept getting worse. And I think that this is an interesting topic of the problems with medicine, because it leads to a major problem that we face in this whole business, and that is ego, prestige, arrogance, and income. And of course, all of those things are being defended by going along with the pharmaceutical program. And only within the last year did I find out about Royal Raymond Wright and the remarkable technology that existed about 76 years ago. And I imagine you know about that, and people listening to your program know about Royal Raymond Wright.
Well, for those that don't want it, why don't we expand a little on that? About others, I have another comment after, but yes.
Should I go ahead about that?
Yes, please do. Explain for those that are not aware of that, and I'll dovetail something when you finish there, sir.
Sure. Well, Royal Raymond did his work in California in about 76 years ago. He had an enormous talent. I guess wouldn't hurt to call him a genius. He impressed Timco, who ran the ball bearing business, very much by finding out ways to vastly improve his production, and so his research was supported. He concluded that everything has a mortal oscillatory rate. That is to say, that we deal with frequencies, that organs, bacteria, all manner of things, I guess everything, has a frequency. And so he thought that if you could get the frequency of a pathogen, such as tuberculosis or streptococcus, and subject it to a vibration, it would shatter. And that's exactly what happened. So he developed a device that would provide these frequencies. And the question is, well, then how did he know that it worked? Well, he developed this incredible microscope in which the beams of light did not cross, and I understand instead of an air glass interface for the lenses, they used glycerin. So this microscope surpassed electron microscopy. Only you could take movies through it, and you could see the bacteria exploding.
Wow.
And so this was an incredible invention. And then he, followed this up with the frequency device that would knock off bacteria and other things. And he was absolutely at the forefront of research and very much admired by advanced physicians in that area, by the top physicians in that part of the world. And in fact, they had a banquet for him in honor of the end of all disease. I think this has been in Pasadena about 76 years ago. The end of all disease. And they wanted him to treat cancer, and he was a little bit hesitant to do so because he was such a careful researcher. But they did treat a number of patients, I believe 22, patients who were considered terminal, far advanced, with remarkable success, and about 20 out of 22. And then later, the other two were much improved. I think they were clear of cancer. Now, what happened? So this is an amazing story. You would think that in medical school, as an undergraduate, an electrical engineer, anything, a chemist, you would find out about this. But no, I didn't find out about this until maybe a year or two ago. And I don't even know how I blundered into it. And there are people out there.
Can I ask a question, Doctor?
Yes,
you're saying that this microscope surpassed the, wow. I mean, how could we have something like that so long ago and still, I mean, the micron microscope, just, how has that technology been lost?
It's been hidden. It's not been lost. It's been hidden.
I think it got hidden.
My God, I mean, the micron microscope was considered. That was considered one of the biggest breakthroughs in technical history in that area, and you're telling me that 76 years ago something existed that surpassed that.
Correct. And I have a DVD, and you can actually find all of this stuff online. Probably see the same way in which a professor is, talking about this, and he's showing people these pictures, and they're saying, "Oh, well, this is an electron micrograph." And he says, "No, it's not." And the thing is, of course, if you do something if you study something with an electron microscope, it has to be dead. And this microscope, the Rife microscope, took pictures of living organisms, and you could stain them with light. So very dramatic pictures. And then he would subject them to the frequency, and they would explode. Amazing. But what happened to Rife is that he was taken down by a number of factors. That money got involved, patents, the AMA got involved, and then there was this litigation. And Rife, was a scientist, the best there was. And so they had him testifying in court day after day after day after day, which was very hard on him, even though the case was an open and shut pretty much case. And apparently he began to drink, and everything just fell apart. Then the technology was sent to England, but World War II intervened, and the whole thing just kind of disappeared. Some people had these instruments, and federal marshals would come knocking at their door and remove the instruments. So it didn't get lost, it was hidden. And
so the electron microscope is not the most powerful microscope in the world, the electron microscope, as we're all led to believe.
I can't really speak about that at this point because, things have advanced in so many ways, but at the time of the invention of the electron microscope, the light microscope, as created by Royal Rife, was equal, except that it was better in that you could take pictures of living organisms, take movies of them. That's what he did. He took
Wow.
So this has all disappeared. So
Edward,
that kind
Edward.
of should make people think, well, I wonder if there was a conspiracy involved or if somebody just misplaced the file.
Definitely
Well,
not,
we know
Edward.
they just misplaced the file. Because
Definitely
there's no other explanation. So you have the flesh-eating staphylococcus, all these deadly things, and now you pour all these chemicals on them. The instrument would knock them right off, as far as I can tell. And this was technology 76 years ago. Now another thing, incredible banquet, and they have pictures of that. The people, they have lots of information on this banquet. But when the people were interviewed later, the men interviewed later, and the doctors, they seem to have forgotten about it. So that's interesting in itself. So that's kind of the Royal Raymond Rife story. It's like, that happened 76 years ago, and where we are now is, 150 years ago, I would say. Actually, probably worse than that. So in the meantime, everybody's had antibiotic poured into them. All of these things are coming out, these weaponized drugs, weaponized bacterium, anthrax, all of this stuff, and you don't hear anything at all about treating this with frequencies. You don't hear about the frequencies of anything. Frequencies are not there. They're not told in medical school. Another in medical school or in residency or anything like that. It's not. It's all dark ages. So that kind of rattled me when I found out about that. I began to realize really how little I knew when I found out about Royal Raymond Rife. And the other thing that was got me was the European swine flu scandal, in which they had a live bird flu, and the usual advocants, I can't say that word, squalene and such, mixed with seasonal flu virus, and 72 kilograms of this were sent to Eastern Europe, the Czech Republic, Slovenia, I guess, that part of the world. And a technician in the Czech Republic, for reasons unknown, decided to inject this into ferrets, and they all died. So when they looked at this vaccine then, and had a reason to study it, they found this live bird flu virus, which is very dangerous, very fatal, but not very much infectious. And of course, the seasonal flu is very infectious, but not particularly lethal. And of course, you would have had in Eastern Europe a whole big petri dish going with the population. And of course, then it happened that, certainly by accident or by a coincidence, that everyone had been made immune to litigation. The World Health Organization, the manufacturers, the governments, the doctors, and everybody was immune to litigation. Surely a
By accident.
By accident. I think.
What do you expect?
So that's the kind of when I began to think, gee, I don't know nothing. And kind of went. I was already working on essentially what I would have to say is the whole enchilada. How does it all work? Because it's clearly so big, so massive, that it's not that you get a piece of it. You're not likely to get all the whole thing. You have to go forward. And a critical book is actually William Guy Carr's Pawns in the Game. That's an important book. That really tells you a lot. I think that was published in 1959. And the late Ted Gunderson, who was the head of the FBI in Los Angeles, and talks a lot about the abuse of children, maybe satanic ritual abuse, mentioned that book in his series of YouTube videos.
Right.
I knew Ted, and I wish I'd worked with him more at that time. So that's kind of where I'm coming from. And in 2007, I saw online. It was a message by Eustace Mullins. It said the contract murder of Eustace Mullins by Eustace Mullins. So I called the number there in Stanton, Virginia, and it was hard to get through. Lots of phone problems. It wasn't Skype, but it was almost as bad. And finally talked to Eustace and brought him out to California on a speaking tour in the year 2007. And that was interesting because there was a lot of resistance to that. The ADL did not like him being out here.
They call him the ADL.
Edward,
the ADL call him an anti-Semite. He was not an anti-Semite. I did a lot of research on him. It's so wonderful that you had gotten a chance to know him and speak with him and be with him. And what a tremendous researcher, exposing the truth. I mean, the book he did, Death by Injection, incredible insights into what's really going on. I have to interject because we should talk about those books too. He wrote all of it, The World Order, many books. He was a Library of Congress researcher. Incredible. And wow. So what was it like? What was he like, Eustace Mullins?
Well, Eustace is a remarkable man, was a remarkable man. He said that he remembered everything he read, and I believe it. When you watch him read, he flipped the pages about every 15 seconds. He could do that. He did work as a deck attendant in the Library of Congress, and he was working there when he wrote his seminal work, or his first work, critical work, Secrets of the Federal Reserve. Ezra Pound was incarcerated in St. Elizabeth's Hospital at that time, and Eustace visited him. And one day, Ezra gave him a $10 bill and said, what is this Federal Reserve business? So Eustace started working on that, and he wrote the book, and it was, he was so proud of it. He took it to New York, and the publisher said, well, if I publish this on Monday, I'll be out of business on Tuesday. Why don't you go write a novel? And so Eustace kept at it. He did get published. I don't know exactly where the first publication was, but it was published in German, I think 10,000 copies. And this was the only book burnt, destroyed in Europe since World War II. Apparently the U.S. government, which of course never, I guess, made peace with Germany, demanded that it be destroyed. And Eustace, who loved working in the Library of Congress, was fired from that position after he wrote The Secrets of the Federal Reserve. His words were that one day a couple of Jewish guys came to visit his employer, or his boss, who then told him, "Oh, I'm sorry, Eustace, I'm going to have to let you go because of this book." And he became a target ever after that. But he persisted, he persevered, and wrote a number of critically important books. And I published one. I had it reprinted. I was able to do that at that time, right? But when I brought him out here, and that was The Curse of Canaan. But I did it in paperback and sold it on Amazon. It was, kind of a hassle to try and sell books, but I did that when he was out here, and it was painful, the lack of support that was available for him speaking, and the efforts to prevent him from speaking. The owner of the Grand Lakes Theater was called up, and they told him not to let him speak. I mean, what he was talking about was the Federal Reserve. That was the topic of his conversation, that of his lectures.
Of course.
And soon after he went back to Virginia, something happened to him. He got sick, and people said he had a stroke, et cetera, and so forth. And I'm going to have to say, I think he was attacked electronically at this point. Anyway, I visited him at the residence care, the nursing home, I guess it was, in Staunton, and then subsequently, a friend took him to Dallas, where he was kidnapped, taken out of a residence there, and driven around the country for about 14 months before he died. He was a captive. And I did talk to him several times by his captor's cell phone. And, and at one point he said, well, I have no say in where I'm going. And we never knew where he was going to be. And of course, we don't have the resources to fly out and intercept. It sounded like Potemkin little meetings were put together where he would talk to a group of agents. He was a friend of a woman, Joan Barbara Lista, who really cared for him and would call him up every Saturday. See if he was getting enough to eat, if he was warm, etc. She really cared for him. I didn't call him all that much or get in on these calls because I was afraid that I couldn't hide the hostility I was feeling and that it would break the contact with Joan Barbara Lista. And then I get a call from Joan Barbara Lista at about 14 months after he'd been taken. She said the captor, Jesse Lee, had called her up and said that he loved her. And this was very strange. Of course, they had never met. She was 78 or something. And so Jesse Lee called her up and said that he loved her. The next thing I knew, I got an email that said Joan Barbara Lista was dead. And then about 2 weeks later, Eustace died. Now, so one of the conversations, Eustace was driven all around the country, and he turned up at the American Free Press. We didn't know it at the time. We learned out afterwards. And I wrote emails, and I said, this guy is a captive. He's not free, And they got very upset. Michael Collins Piper communicated with me. And Michael Collins Piper talked to Joan Lista for a long time. And he said he was going to call her back, but he never did. And I don't know the details of that conversation, but, we called a number of people there at the American Free Press and said, he's not free. He's a captive.
All right. It's a hostage.
And
he's a hostage.
Well, I would think, and they said, well, Jesse Lee put his napkin around him. That shows he was taking good care of him. Put his napkin around his neck. Oh, wow. So that's part of the Eustace.
It's just again with
and
this.
It has a lot of fast.
Hey, doctor, I want to add to this if I may. This is Kelly Z here. I know that basically when people die, the copyright continues for decades. So I put it in my book. If I end up dead, this book may be copied by anybody else, published by anybody else, and freely distributed if I end up dead. I put those in my books.
You do that so that it has to be in the book?
It's in the book. Basically, if they kill me, it will be able to be copied by anybody and distributed because I know their tricks.
Very nice.
Well, yeah. What I understand is that some sort of foundation. When you was a captive, that some sort of a foundation was put together in Chicago to deal with this. So I'd have to say this, was not exactly what Eustace wanted. Eustace did not want any of the things that happened to him to happen to him. He wanted his books out there. It was interesting that he was taken off the streets just a couple of months before the 2008 economic collapse.
Well, sure. Let's be real. They were saying for years that the Federal Reserve, you're crazy. They denied that the Federal Reserve was a private corporation, basically until they couldn't deny it anymore. And then they said, "Oh yeah, well it is." And
then they still deny it.
And they still deny it. And who the real owners are. We know who the real owners are. You know, it's. And then I want to keep getting back to Rockefeller because you're a physician and speaking about this this eugenics which is being perpetrated upon the world, not just. Again, you talk about how they have all these control grids, and earlier we were talking about ways that we can get back our government using the grand jury and other things like this. I mean, we should be indicting these drug companies for murder. Do you realize 250,000 people die a year from drug reactions? You must know that. It's not a secret, but nobody talks about it. What's
right.
your...
Well, actually, I didn't know that. No.
Yeah, that's the number. I mean, worldwide. I mean, it's still a large number, of people that they just because they have a drug interaction. These drugs cause I don't know. Let me think of one. They all have crazy side effects. Orencia causes cancer. Take it anyway. Ask your doctor.
I don't say they have crazy side effects.
What do you think about this?
I don't believe in pharmacy at all at this point.
Right. What do you?
I feel
yes.
like I'm slow to have come to this conclusion.
Yes, Roger.
But there's a lot of pressure on you to toe the line. I'll tell you that.
Well, that's the thing. It's always ask your doctor.
Really,
ask your doctor. Ask your doctor. Ask your doctor. What is? They're like they're like the drug companies are saying. Ask your doctor. I mean, and nobody says anything that's not ethical. That's absolutely not ethical. Ask your doctor if you should take this drug. Your doctor should know what drugs you should take. You shouldn't have to ask your doctor, right?
Well, well, the physician has been taken out of the loop. Obviously, from what I say, we can see that the education is not what it should be because we overlook little things like the Rife technology, and then. We overlook other forms of cancer treatment, let me say the word cure, and other naturopathic methods that don't have side effects. And we have all these expensive studies. And another thing is that if you do a search for mind control patents, you'll find a lot of them. I think most of them are on rinse at this point, but they've been all over the place. And they're from the last century. And the voice-to-skull technology, emotional controls via television. I mean, as I think it was Matthias Chang said, the brain doesn't have a firewall. Our brains are subjected to electromagnetic radiation, and a lot of it is, probably all of it is harmful, and a lot of it can be directed to have extraordinary effects. That's not taught in neurology. That's not taught in continuing education. So it's pretty sad.
That's unbelievable.
Howard, this is David.
Yes, David.
Are you there?
Howard.
Yes, David.
Which was for Justice, and I think Randy's on the line too. You made a point as the doctor was talking there, and I think you've hit a very significant nerve, and that is we have a lot of things going on. By the way, am I echoing a lot there?
Sorry.
I'm hearing you echo.
Yeah, I'm hearing your echo too, David.
Well, I don't know why, because I'm just on a headset, but
You're not now.
That's weird. Okay.
I finally got on a headset.
Well, that's what's needed. I think everybody needs to be on a headset, or there's feedback that will come back through your computer on your speakers. So that helps. The point that you were making, Howard, about how we need to get to legal remedy is a critical point in this whole discussion. The problem that we have so far is everybody is protesting, but nobody's prosecuting. And what we're trying to do at Tools for Justice is to change a paradigm here. The issues that the doctors raised tonight, they point to a significant problem. There's a lot of pieces that are coming together and converging to what Roger has catalyzed, if you will, through the We the People network. and that is we've got the ability to let a lot of people know what's going on, and I kind of equate it to a sieve, if you will, where you've got a very large opening, and that large opening funnels down into a smaller opening, and people, as they become more interested in wanting to solve the problem, they move into the second level of the funnel, if you will, or the sieve, and that's where we begin to build an army of legal activists, okay? And for instance, within Tools for Justice, we have a section that is a secured forum where people could get together and they could begin to address specific issues that need to be addressed and figure out how do we achieve the legal remedy that's required to solve this problem. When Jim Condit was on the last hour, Jim Condit Jr. was on talking about the issue of the precincts and what we need to do. People could strategize together about how to deal with this in a particular area of the country or a certain precinct location or whatever. What we've got to do is we've got to set up a mechanism in which people can act, where we're smart enough and we're strong enough to govern ourselves as Americans. We just need to have the proper tools to allow this to happen. And, there's issues that Tools for Justice has addressed initially, but that is very far from where we want to go. And it really makes a lot of sense for people to start getting together in a common forum, in a common location, where we can start working together. We can pull together expertise. Like, for instance, you've got Jerry Davis, who understands Supreme Court law and state court law. You've got people like Randy White, who understand the issues of the criminal violations and misapplication of the federal employment tax, and the issues regarding RICO, regarding the overinflated mortgages and the fact that people now are underwater, upside down, being foreclosed on illegally by the banks. Well, we have the proper tools, meaning we have criminal complaints that every individual in the country that's being violated can file. Then you have people like Kelly Mordechai, who's helping us to understand the place of the grand jury and how we need to restore this vital function back into this culture. There's other people that we haven't even touched on yet. You've got the Article 5 convention, Bill Walker's people and John D. Herrera, who are trying to awaken us to the fact that the Congress is not willing to do their required responsibility. And so we're pulling them in. I'm looking to connect Daniel McGonigal from the Committees of Safety in and deal with the Second Amendment issue of restoring well-regulated militia back into the states. There's a lot of issues here, and you know what? There's ones we don't even know about out there. And so,
there's
I'm just raising this point.
sheriffs.
Agreed. Yes, Sheriff Mack and what he's attempting to do. Again, we need to have a rallying point. And that's what I'm trying to share here, that everybody can, focus on those things they really feel passionate about and teach others. It's an education issue, as Jerry Davis said last night in the call we were on. We've got a whole lot of learning that has to go on here, but we can't do one or the other. We've got to do both. We've got to be activistic, legally and politically, while we're learning at the same time, because unfortunately the clock is ticking, and the powers that be, as Kelly calls them, are not stopping. And so I'm done with my little rant.
This is the whole reason, and excuse me?
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. Tools for Justice, would that be toolsforjustice.com?
Correct.
Yes, sir.
Yes. Excellent website.
Okay.
And Howard, you and I have discussed it. Oh, believe me, it's worth the trip to that site.
Yeah, I have a friend whose father, I don't think he's a DA anymore, but he was a defense attorney. And he gives me a lot of really good legal advice. My friend, obviously, he learned from his father, so I was definitely interested in interjecting at some point and going on that website and just kind of like feedback looping through my friend here, anything that might come up as an issue.
If you wouldn't mind, Howard, if we could take a couple. if we could take a few
I'm sorry?
minutes and explain, if you wouldn't mind, if we could explain what's going on right now. We're actually working with the FBI on criminality of the Internal Revenue Service agents and filing criminal complaints to put these people in jail and fix the problem that, Ron Paul's dealing with by saying we need to get rid of the federal income tax. The fact of the matter is, it's not applicable in regards to your labor for 70 million Americans right now with no changes whatsoever. And
Right.
this is about to become mainstream knowledge. And when it does, there's going to be a lot of people who are going to be very upset at what's been done to them over the last 70 years. Randy is on the call, and he could go into some detail if you have a couple minutes for us to do that.
Go ahead, Rand. Sure.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. The reason that I'll back up a bit. The Internal Revenue Code, and in particular, the federal employment tax provisions of the Internal Revenue Code is written in such a manner that it was intended that we would never understand it.
That's obvious. It's obvious.
It took me providing 6 years of litigation support full time to pro se litigants to crack the code. And then from there we have an additional year of litigation, primarily in federal appellate courts, with some in tax court. And during that year 7, it took me an entire year to write a criminal complaint and memorandum in support against the IRS for systematically misapplying federal employment taxes to non-federally connected workers. And what the IRS has been doing is engaging in extortion, actually theft by deception, extortion, and willful oppression under color of law in violation of IRC or 26 U.S.C. Section 7214A, which is a felony crime. And that particular felony statute also provides that when judgment is rendered against the agent, not only is the agent no longer employed, there's fine, there's prison, and then there's a judgment against the agent for the amount of damages sustained by the injured party, meaning us, to be collected by execution. And what that means is that it becomes a federal marshal's job to find the agent's assets and to put these agents in involuntary bankruptcy and to sell their assets and to collect them on our behalf to make us financially whole. It's a beautiful statute, and it's been just sitting there for decades collecting dust. And we are going to make use of it.
That's what we need.
May I ask who's talking in the website?
Is that Ed, Doctor?
It's toolsforjustice.com.
Toolsforjustice.com. Okay, good.
Yes.
If I might chime back in again and just mention this though. What Randy is explaining there is just the first of several areas of litigation that need to be addressed, criminal complaints prepared, and proper strategies put in place to deal with a number of issues. And it comes back to a concept called control frauds. And Randy, address that issue because that deals with what you're dealing with now regarding the upside down and underwater mortgages and so on. And it really provides an understanding to the people as to where the federal government and the corporations
David, you're
have.
breaking up. I can't hear anything you're saying.
I can hear David.
Yeah, you're coming too clear for us, David.
It may be because you're not on a headset, what, Randy?
I don't know. You're broadcasting
Oh,
fine. You
well,
sound
I'm on a
great.
handset.
Am I echoing at all?
No.
No, I'm hearing everybody quite well.
No echoes right now. No echoes. That does happen from time to time. No echoes.
Anyway.
I'm actually hearing everybody really well.
You are?
Good. That's Ron. Hey, this is Ronnie Bennick. That's just chiming in there. Ronnie Bennick does the show at 8 p.m. in just a few minutes. Outside the Margins with Ronnie Bennick. How are you tonight, Ronnie?
I'm good, Howard. And by the way, happy birthday to you.
Oh, thank you.
Happy birthday to you.
Happy birthday, Howard.
Howard. Happy birthday to you.
Thank you, Ronnie.
Happy birthday, Howard.
Thank you, everybody. Yes, yesterday was my birthday, and I had a great present. I interviewed for 2 hours Fritz Springmeier, so that was just incredible. But yes, it was my birthday
That was
yesterday.
excellent, by the way, Howard.
Oh, thank you. It was amazing. I mean, I'm getting it up on YouTube as soon as I can. I haven't slept basically, and I literally before the show I changed my shirt, guys. I'm not even kidding. But from yesterday, so it's been a busy day.
Did you spray some deodorant?
Yes, I did, Ronnie. Oh wow.
Howard, let me jump in here real quick, okay, and interject something because, I mean, I'm hearing all of this great stuff, and most of it are from partners of the network, We the People Network. Of course, Howard, you're a partner. Kelly's a partner. Tools for Justice is a partner. Jim Condit and his group are a partner. So what's really making me feel good about this is, and what David said, which is so important, is that we need to have a place where we can all meet to bounce these ideas off of each other and to bring them out to the people. Okay, I'm really, really proud and really happy to provide a venue where all of us can get together, because any concept or any idea that's going to advance the liberties and freedoms of we the people in this country is top on our list. So just to be able to have this kind of talent in one place, having this type of a discussion, well, I got to tell you, I'm having a great day. Thank you, gentlemen.
Well, thank you, Roger. I mean, it really is amazing. Liberty, like you've said, and it's absolutely true, and you said it on air, it's infectious, it's contagious. People want liberty and good information and truth, and this is really is a forum, because the whole world is like Dr. Spencer was saying, we're controlled here with everything that we're seeing and we're shown on the televisions and all of this. This is a place where there's none of that bullshit, no restrictions. This is where we speak what we feel, what we think, and what we know. And that's what they're trying to attack. Why do you think they want to close down the internet? Why do you think they passed laws like the National Defense Authorization Act to take away our liberties and put us in rendition? They know we're making a difference. The mainstream media will be abandoned in not many years, because they don't want to be lied to. How many more lies do you have to take? How many times does the president have to lie? How many times does the media have to report it and say, and then, oh, it's going to be great, and unemployment is down. Did you hear that, guys? Unemployment's down.
Bullshit.
Of course it's bullshit.
I have said that better myself.
Of course it's not down. Everything's a lie. So here's a forum for truth.
I'll tell you, one thing that is down is the standard of living. If you notice, the people who still maintain their jobs through this whole economic crisis thus far have taken pay cuts, including myself. And I'll tell you, it's a real low blow on that terms. And when you're talking about the people who are being hired back into the workforce, you're talking about part-time people that are taking the overtime away from full-time employees out in the field. So you're talking about people who are living on less money than they were before and lowering the standard of living. That is an absolute fact.
Who's that speaking?
That's Matt from We Are Change, Connecticut.
Matt from We Are Change.
Hey, Matt, how would you like to get 25% more pay simply by filing a criminal complaint against the IRS for the last 6 years?
Now, that I would enjoy. I don't think my corporation, the corporation I work for, which I will not name on air, because of fear of losing my job, we all gotta eat. But I'll tell you, I would enjoy that. I actually would pursue that.
Well, and that's what we're trying to help people understand at Tools for Justice, because, and it's just the first issue, and others are happening. But the point I'm trying to make is that you're right. There's been and this is part of this thing I was addressing, the control fraud issue, which, Randy, if you could take a minute and explain how that works, I think it's important for people to understand.
Explain how we can get our payback?
The issue of I was trying to push this back to the issue that I addressed when you couldn't hear me. I was trying to help people understand the umbrella concept of control frauds and how the government has been using these to.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Yeah. The primary kind of white-collar crime that we face today is called control frauds. And in the private sector, such as with banks that engage in predatory lending, it's where the chief executive officers of the corporation use their corporation as a financial weapon against society. Well, in government, they also engage in control frauds where they usually fail to enforce the statutes and regulations making certain activities a crime. And with the Internal Revenue Service, they've been getting away with criminal activity because the federal prosecutors and the courts fail to prosecute their criminal activity. Plus, the U.S. Department of Treasury is complicit. And with at least one of the regulations that comes to mind, and some others that can easily be pointed to. Anyway, what they do is they create the appearance that they're enforcing the statutes, when what they're in fact doing, and of course this is only with one federal tax out of like 1,000 different taxes. They misapply it, and then the percentage of the money that they take illegally, they distribute among themselves. And this but it gets worse. There's what's called an IRS impress fund account, and where there's federal monies allocated for IRS investigations and prosecutions. And when you go to Title V and you read the provisions, and then you read in Title IV certain alleged limitations, and then you read in Title 28 regarding the judiciary, what becomes explicitly clear is that since the year 2004, the federal government has allocated $500 million for undisclosed cash awards to federal employees. And when you connect the dots between Title IV, or Title V, Title IV, and Title 28, these undisclosed cash awards, up to amounts of $25,000 a pop, could go to the federal attorney general and anyone in his office, to the federal prosecutors, and to federal judges. And the statutes prohibit the disclosure of these, what amounts to as bribes and kickbacks. Now, if you or I were to, give a federal judge an undisclosed cash award, well, we would be prosecuted for bribing the judge. But the federal government has made it legal to give federal judges undisclosed cash awards for IRS prosecutions. And so what has resulted is that we have taken many cases all the way through U.S. district courts and tax courts, and they've taken them up on appeal. And we have these beautifully written memorandums, appellate briefs, and bringing some questions. They're very conservative, legitimate questions for appeal, and they're fully supported by the United States Supreme Court case law precedent on federal constitutional taxation and on the rules of statutory construction. And what the courts issue in response to these beautifully written appeal briefs are unpublished decisions which make no reference to any of the issues raised on appeal. And of course they deny remedy. And so we have received enough of these unpublished decisions in federal appellate courts around the country that we have hard evidence that this is not a civil issue. This is a criminal issue. So David and I and another partner 2 weeks ago went to the FBI. And this was a year after the fact, after I had talked with an FBI agent for an hour. He at the conclusion of this hour-long conversation, where he was playing devil's advocate, he said, "No, you did not contact me too early. Assemble your evidence, bring your complaint, and I will get it to the right parties to investigate and prosecute the IRS." Well, 2 weeks ago, as in this next Monday, we spent 2.5 hours with that agent. And he also played devil's advocate some. But he's a very skilled investigator. And so he asked all the right questions and we had all the right answers. And as we were making our presentation, there came a couple of places where we were reading the statutes and then reading the case law. It's where he was reading and then I was reading out loud. His jaw dropped. He was visibly stunned. This is a skilled FBI agent. And
it's amazing.
So we're looking to hear back from the Public Corruption Division of the FBI. And, we have 100% strong, undeviating intention to follow through with prosecuting the IRS, obtaining an indictment, and obtaining prosecution, and of course, before we get there, work with the FBI, find a federal judge or judges that will work with us, because our vulnerability is we can get a grand jury indictment against the IRS. That's not a problem. The problem is federal judges have the power to dismiss an indictment. Then what do you do?
Can I ask you how I recontacted this?
Kelly here. Can I jump in?
We've only got about 4 minutes,
Can't hear you.
guys.
It's not clear.
Yeah, and
Okay, well, this is Kelly here. I want to jump in. When judges start playing around and federal attorneys, if the grand jury knows their power, they can indict them and get a new judge, get a new federal attorney, if the grand jury knows their power. Obstruction of justice would be the charge.
We're planning on working that way. Basically, what is happening is we're working among ourselves with our areas of research and expertise in bringing each other up to speed, so that as we go through this process, nobody who's corrupt within the government will be able to derail our efforts.
You know, that's great. I think what you're doing is unbelievable, and we have to keep it up. And in fact, I think we should all get together again and really dive into this for like a full 2 hours, because obviously it's such a deep thing. So I'd like to invite you back for this discussion of the IRS. I mean, the IRS is absolutely an evil. Let's face it, we know what it is. It was set up to basically fleece the American people, bring us into serfdom. The Federal Reserve fraud is exactly that. It's a fraud. And by using the FBI, who happen to be recording our very transmission right now by this new standard, it's sort of unbelievable that we're using the FBI to fight the people that are actually recording our conversation because they think we're potential terrorists or something like that, trying to like expose the criminals. So it is good to rant and it's good to scream, but you need a plan, and you guys have a plan. This is a great plan, and we are working and with the network together, and Roger Landry and everybody. And tonight I just want to make a quick thanks to our guest, Dr. Edward Spencer, who spent a lot of time with us. Dr. Spencer, you have any closing thoughts? We got a couple of minutes to go here.
Yes, I would very much like to say something, and this is what I'm going to say is the whole enchilada thing. Is that what I
think we covered the whole enchilada today.
I'm sorry, I can't understand what you're saying. You're breaking up badly.
Sorry, I was saying I think we covered the whole enchilada today, but go, Doctor.
Okay, well, what I'm going to say, I hope you can hear me, is that
I can't understand anything. I'm on a regular telephone.
Well, can anyone hear what I'm saying?
Yeah,
I can hear you.
I can hear Roger Landry.
Yeah, clear as a bell, and you're broadcasting clear.
I will just have to continue that. I think that what we're involved here is a clash of civilizations, and this is the far out stuff. That we're being hit by actually something from the past, and this is not supernatural stuff. The fact is that the entire Earth was mapped during the last ice age. And if one looks around, there's tremendous evidence of a civilization that's existed over the entire planet that we don't know anything about. We're not told anything about it. And the stuff that's happening to us is so hideous, so widespread. What I'm inclined to think is that this is an attack on Western civilization, and perhaps all civilizations, and that the plan is to take things down to zero and reinstall something hideous that was there before. Now, I know that this is far out, but think about heart, Morgellons disease, the stuff we know about medicine, the entire level of corruption everywhere. And, what I'm saying is no more crazy than that. And what I'm saying, I'm ending on, is that I think the final attack point may be fairly close, less than a year away, in which, the economy will collapse entirely. There'll be no electrical power everywhere. Communications will be destroyed. Genetic diseases, weaponized stuff will be everywhere. So we don't have a lot of time. We should organize a network to survive very rapidly, and think about whether or not how much time we have later. But I think we need to organize very rapidly, because the stuff out there, I can't even keep it all in my head. Fukushima, depleted uranium, it just goes on and on. We're under a physical tax. Smart meters.
Don't forget the chemtrails.
And by Socrates. So I'm finished at this point.
Tools for Justice has a mechanism for that to happen.
Yeah, we're all gonna. Everybody that's on, like I said, we got to have. Everybody should really. We all need to get back on here. Dr. Edward Spencer, please join us again. We have a lot. We can get into a lot of depth here, but I do believe that the elite are planning something hideous. They do want to wipe out the population, reduce it to no more than 500 million. It's written in granite. This is their plan. They have the money. They have the resources.
Georgia Stones.
Yes, the Georgia Guidestones. Yeah. They have the plan, they have the money, they have the resources, and they have the control. But what we have is now the knowledge, and we've got their blueprint. so we can use their blueprint against them, like you guys are doing with the IRS. It's just unbelievable. This is what we got to do. We have to legally attack these. It's funny, like I said, the FBI. Who would think the FBI is recording us right now, and they're also going to help us to stop the very tyranny that they're supposed to be policing. It's almost like Orwellian in a way. It's sort of strange. I mean,
it's a conundrum.
It's a conundrum. There you go.
Conundrum,
That's the right word. I couldn't think of it. It's exactly what it is.
The Indians who are attacking us are going to lose. Most people are going to be losers. In fact, almost everyone is going to be a loser. And the people we need to get on our side for working against this thing are many of the people who are actually involved in the attack. There's no winners that anyone knows in this system that's coming down. And so that's my word to the FBI.
Very good. Listen, we have to go, and it's our time is up, and everybody, again, will join in anytime. We're here Fridays from 1 to 3, and Saturdays from 6 to 8 p.m. Next Saturday, Anthony J. Hilder will be joining us, and that's going to be a fantastic interview. And Edward, please join us as well if you can, Doctor.
I will.
Excellent. Wonderful. That's going to be a great show. Great show. God bless.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Doctor, for joining us. Thank you. God bless everybody. God bless everyone that's fighting for the truth here, and we need the Lord's protection. I'll tell you in that. If you don't believe in God, believe in truth. Keep it real. And I'm going to just say, see you guys all next week. Ronnie Bennick is up now and stick around. Listen, Ronnie Bennick now is on with Outside the Margins. Ronnie, take it away. God bless you. Have a good night.
Howard, I love your show.
Oh, Ronnie, you're awesome. We should dovetail. Like, it's great. I mean, we should keep going, right? You've got some guests on tonight. Who are the guests tonight, Ronnie?
Yeah, we've got Jeff Howard. We've got... sorry. I'm Jeff Howard. I'm thinking of you.
Jeff Harvey.
We've got Jeff Howard. We've got Ange. We've got Jeff
Harvey, Ronnie. Harvey.
We've got Ange. We've got Corey Herter, Bob Newton. We are actually interviewing Jeff Harvey. So we're actually discovering a lot of things, from dream state to quantum physics to radionics. Howard, stick around.
I shall.
Birthday boy, happy birthday to you.
Thanks, Ronnie. Definitely going to stick around. For everybody else on the live stream, good night. But I'm here. I'm going to be listening and talking in and chiming in too.
We are in process of developing a whole series of techniques which will enable the controlling oligarchy to get people actually to love their servitude. People can be made to enjoy a state of affairs which, by any decent standard, they ought not to enjoy.